Welcome to Useless Nipples Podcast, a podcast about lifestyle, parenting, and everything in between, with your host, Allie and
Mike. It's good to be back. It's nice to do this one the fourth time with a little bit better, hopefully a little bit better sound quality. I wanted to just make a note of that. We're working on it. And by we, I mean me. Learning how to get closer to the microphone. I tend to mumble, so I'm working on enunciation. I hope that came out nice and clear. And a few other things. So it's a fun project, but definitely a learning experience. So my apologies for the first few episodes if they're a little bit off on the sound.
Yes, I hope you guys can understand. Well, I'm sure you guys understand. We are normal people. We don't get ourselves involved in this kind of thing on a day-to-day basis. So we're learning. Yes, the quality of the first couple episodes are not as good as we would like them to be, but we are definitely aware of it. We are working on it. We appreciate your patience with us. This is definitely a learning curve. So I know with each episode, we will just get better and better and hopefully sounding more and more professional, because that would be cool to have a professional sounding podcast.
I would like that. I don't want to be the problem, and I got headphones on now, so I feel like a podcaster. I feel like that's like a thing that we needed. I know you had the headphones since episode one. I got super jealous of you about it, but hoping now that this is going to help, all the way around. And again, you guys can see it now. The microphone is in front of my face. Like I can give it a little kiss if I needed to. But yeah, this should help understand me. And again, I have tendencies that don't make for um, good listening if I'm too far away from this thing. So I got to stay nice and close to it.
It is part of your charm, though. And I think people will get that as we go on and on. It's definitely part of his charm. We were talking about it yesterday, and he made the joke that his mumbling is in part so when he makes a joke, you have to listen really close to catch it. And it's true. It's just not great for podcasting.
It's not. It's great for like a big class where I just kind of like, I'll mumble out a joke and like three people get it and they love it. And then the rest of people are like, what did he say? I missed it. And so now I'm like, well, now you got to pay attention. Stop talking in the back. You know what I mean? Yeah. And when I say classroom, I mean like a kickboxing classroom, I'm not a teacher, but
a type of teacher, not an educational teacher, maybe.
There you go. That's a better way to put it. Yeah. And so, actually that's a good little springboard into just background stuff. We've been doing a few episodes and we try to give you as an idea of who we are and our families. And then we reference so many people. We reference, Tom and Ash, which is Tom is Allie's husband. Ash is my wife. We reference Jet and Johnny. Jet is Allie and Tom's son. Johnny is Ash and I's son. So Ash and my son. I think this is all important information that when you guys hear these things, you know what we're talking about. And I think that sometimes we can take it for granted because we know it. We just kind of just talk through it. So basically, for myself, I'm a professional fighter and coach and trainer. I am married to Ashley, and she worked in the fitness industry for many years. She's left that since we've had a child, which is awesome. I'm actually really excited that she could do that because she was putting in mad hours. We have a son, Johnny, who is 16 months. It's going to be 17 months soon. Check the date. Yeah, it's in a few days. He'll be 17 months. So we almost have a 1.5-year-old. And let's see. We live in a house in Orange County with grandma in the house with us, which is a huge help. So if you hear me referencing grandma a lot, it's because she's here. She works full time from home, and she's a massive help. Because when she's off or when she's on a break or whatever, that's an extra pair of hands. And anyone who's parenting knows what a huge help an extra pair of hands can be throughout the day. So that's a little bit of background on us, kind of a situation. So you'll hear me reference Ashley, Johnny, grandma, and probably many other people, and I'll explain who they are later. But those are the main staples of when I'm talking. That's kind of who I'm talking about. So hopefully that clears up a little bit on my end. Allie, you want to give a little bit on yours?
Yes, absolutely. So, as Mike mentioned, Tom is my husband. Jet is my son. Jet is 22 months, will be 24 months in August, actually. He'll be 2 years old. So, that's pretty exciting. We're hitting some pretty awesome milestones with him actually being able to communicate and speak. So, that is a whole new element that I'll have for you guys. I do work from home. My husband works a lot, actually more than most people. He does work about 12 to 16-hour days. So I know I've mentioned that before. You'll probably hear me say it again. Tom does work a lot, but he's an exceptional husband and father. Jet is my pride and joy. I live in Texas. I do have family out here, but unlike Mike's family, mine is wonderful, but my child only cares about me. So I am so excited for the day where other people can actually help and I can have that freedom. That would be amazing. But until then, we just kind of ride this roller coaster called life. So, uh,
No, that's fair. I mean, I think it's funny that you say that he only cares about you because like it's a very similar situation with Ash, very similar. And that's something we're going to talk about a lot. It's the mom son relation for those of mothers who are at home. I think it's and even if you work, when you get home, I'm sure the dynamic changes. And so I think it's funny that you mentioned that. It's something that you'll hear me talk about quite a bit. I mean, I feel like I play second fiddle here. It's hard. It's hard. It's very hard to just deal with that. To feel like, okay, well, I can't help. Even today, I was telling Allie prior to this show, I was like, well, I'm going to help prep some food. I'm going to make a couple coffees, and then I'm kind of useless. So I'm totally available to podcast and do this today.
once again, you got those useless nipples.
Useless nipples and useless everything else too. Apparently, I don't play as well as I'm not as fun as Ash. Ash is way more fun than I am to our son. This
That's
boy
not
loves,
even true. That can't
totally
be true. You're so fun.
It's totally not, but he doesn't see that yet. He's not ready to embrace the dad fun yet. I mean, he does when we're alone. We have a blast together, and we talked about this in a previous episode about, finding your time and finding father-son time and finding all that and getting separation from the mom and dad time, because mom and dad time can tend to look more like mom time. It has that tendency, and that's tough. So sorry, you said that. It's fresh in my head. We're going through it every day. So
totally. But that made me laugh because yesterday when we were all talking on the phone, and I thought I had this great idea for an episode where we could bring Ash and Tom into it. And I said to Tom, hey, I had this idea for an episode. I think we should do one where you and Mike tell us, if it wasn't for Ashley and I, what would you do differently in parenting? Like, what would your parenting style be? And Tom just looked at me and laughed. And he said, it's the same as I would do now. I would follow the leader.
Yeah.
And that made me laugh because I'm like, seriously, dude? Yes, you know what? I know Tom, and that is totally his parenting style. He's very adaptable, which I think is why he's really good at continuing whatever parenting style is when he's on his. It's like, oh, I'm just mimicking mom. I'll do what mom does. That's his parenting style. Which
that makes sense. It makes sense, and like there is a reason for that too. It's almost. I mean, look, you take Tom, you go in the garage with Tom. It's not your style. Tom's going to tell you this is where this goes. Don't mess with that. Don't touch that. This is where this is. You go to any of his guns, and he's going to run you through the safety. He's going to run you through the rules. You better listen, or you're not going to be able to use any of them. You're not going to be able to. When he taught me, it was very structured. It was like Tom was a teacher. He was an instructor. He was safe. I felt safe. I felt confident that I knew what I was doing because he was so detailed. I mean, this is a completely different conversation, different topic than parenting, but like when he is in charge, I don't believe him. I don't believe he would just follow it. When he is really in charge of something, that man takes charge. Like he really takes charge to the letter. He could tell you this is how it's going to be done. So I hear what he's saying because I follow the leader too, as far as with our son, but When he is in charge, he can lead the ship.
I think you actually make a really good point. And I guess I never thought about it before until you said that and it clicked with me. Tom makes a lot of decisions every single day.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's in charge of a lot of people running a major company, always grinding, always making choices, always having to make sure everything is done correctly. And then when it comes to his hobbies, he's the same way. He's making choices, he's aware, he's attentive, he's taking charge. So it makes me think that really Tom trusts me so much and knows that I do my research and know that, you know, he thinks I'm an intelligent person and I'm not going to make choices that aren't going to fit our family. So I think for him, it's almost like, oh, thank God. Yeah, whatever mom says, let's do that.
Right.
Whatever, I'm tired of making up decisions. Whatever mom says, that's what we're going to go with. And he sticks to it.
That makes perfect sense. That makes perfect sense. And you're right. All day long, he is in charge. All day long, people come to him all day long. What do I need to do? What do I do with this? What do I do here? Oh my God, whatever, man. This is what you do. Just stop bugging me. When you go home, it is so nice to fall into a structure, to not have to think. I mean, honestly, to not have to think in any part of life, it's kind of nice. You know, that's why we like vacations. It's like, oh, I don't have to think about anything. I'm just going to relax. I'm just going to go through it. We still cook. We still do whatever. I mean, depending on your type of vacation and all that. But if you have a kid, you're still doing your normal routine, but it's like, it's different because I'm on vacation. You know, it's like, I don't know. It's nice to be able to come home. And for him, I'm assuming to be able to come home, not have to think about how to structure this, not have to think about what's next and say, okay, we got this. We have this routine. Mom may have built it. You know, that's fair, but we're going to keep it and he's going to be part of it and he keeps it well. That's the same thing for me. Yeah. I know I got to flow the day. And that's okay. So going back a step here about the last episode, talking about that freestyle parenting, I don't know that freestyle parenting would have been good for all the four of us. I don't know if that would be ideal because of how nice it is to come home and just be like, I know what's happening. I know this is the structure of the day. This is the end of the day. This is the routine. That taking that piece away of like, well, we'll kind of see what happens. Maybe there's some freedom in that too, but I think there's also freedom and discipline. I think that we all kind of gravitate more towards that. And so the discipline of a schedule and a structure, it's almost freeing in a sense because I'm like, cool, I got to knock out 3 more things and then that's bedtime. And then maybe I hang out for a bit. Maybe I get to relax or maybe I just go to sleep. Whatever it is, I know the checklist that's left. And that is also freeing.
Yeah, I think it's definitely that expectation when you have a routine kind of type of parenting. I think you're right. It's like you could walk in the door at any given point and know exactly what's going on. And that's comforting. I would think that's comforting. For me, that's comforting. Even if I leave and Tom's in charge, I know that when I come back at a certain time, it's either we're eating lunch, we're about to do this, we're about to get ready for dinner, it's bath time, it's bedtime. And I think Jet really likes that. And from a lot of the things that I read, and I'm all about types of parenting because what works for you is what works for you. I have friends whose husband works really late, so their daughter stays up late and she goes to bed much later than my child could ever go to bed. He would be a wreck. But for them, it works for them, right? Like that's their good flow. That's how they like to have their day set up. And for their daughter, it really works. For my child, that would never work.
Right.
My God, we were late to bed last night and it was a disaster.
Oh no.
I know there's that trauma again of me being like, oh God, please just go to sleep. But
I get it.
I think as individuals, for the 4 of us, we just like the routine. That type of parenting seems to work for us. It doesn't mean that our kids don't get to explore and have fun and learn and kind of go off on their own or play. It's just when it's bedtime, it's bedtime. When it's lunch. When it's dinner, and so on and so forth.
It's true. I mean, and even with that structure, you have off nights. Last night, my son was up at 11:30. My wife had to get up and she breastfed him. And then she again had to get up at 4 a.m., 4:30, something like that. And again, he's crying, wouldn't go down. So she had to go in there and he wants to nurse. I think it's a comfort thing. I don't think it's a hunger thing. I think it's just strictly a comfort thing. And for whatever reason, he needed a little more attention last night. So she gave it to him and it was fine. So even with a very structured day, and he had a great day, we played, we went out to the park, we did a whole thing, and we had bedtime, and it was all good. Even with all that said and done, you still have the one-offs. You still have those weird nights. You still have all the same things. So, is one way better than the other? I think it's at some point, it's definitely for the health of the child, like whatever your child needs, right? And then, but also like whatever you need to an extent. There is a limitation on that, but as parents, I think like you gotta take care of yourself. It's like you referenced this before, the airplane, like hit the oxygen mask. Like make sure you put yours on before you put on your child's, because if you're not taking care of yourself, you're in no position to take care of a child. So yeah, I mean, I'm not knocking anything. I think just given our spouses' backgrounds, it makes sense that we're on a schedule. My wife was a manager for years. When I met her, she was like at the front desk. Oh, actually, when I met her, she was in Havasu. She was working in like a coffee shop, doing whatever, having a good time, and always working really hard, but like less intense than what she started to do after. When we got together, she moved back out to California because that's where I was living, and I'm living there again now. But she moved out here and she got a job with 24 Hour Fitness because she used to work at one prior. Worked her way up to management, worked her way up to store manager. I mean, and if anyone works for 24 Hour Fitness, there's not a lot of general managers that are female. There's just not. So that was a huge thing for her to do. And she told me way early on in our relationship that she was going to do it. She's like, I'm going to become a general manager for 24 Hour Fitness. And she set that goal when she did it. And that's just the type of person she is. She sets her mind to something, she gets it done, and she's structured about it. And that's definitely bled into our parenting style. She's very structured with our son, and it's a beautiful thing. And, she's not like that all the time with everything. Like we definitely have fun. We definitely, yeah, I guess we used to get a little wild. Now it's not so far less often. but when it comes to things that are very important to her, structure matters. She's brought that home. I think you brought that home for your family, and you kind of set that tone. And Tom is more than happy to continue it. I think that's beautiful.
Yeah,
it's just kind of who we are.
Yes, I agree with that. It also is interesting. So again, Mike and I met each other when we were young, 11 or 12 years old, somewhere around there. We've been friends ever since then. We have grown up with each other 100%. And again, I met Tom when I was 16. We were friends for a while and started dating when we were 18. So Tom and I have really raised each other essentially, because when Tom and I met, he was at the bottom of the barrel in his job. Maybe that's not true. I do think he was a little bit higher up. I don't think he was like right at the bottom, but he wasn't where he is today. I can't tell you guys where he works because I just think that he would be seriously uncomfortable if I did say that. So I'm going to have to omit that information. And it's nothing exciting, you guys. Don't get any wild ideas. It's not that exciting. I just know my husband and I know he wouldn't be comfortable with that. Right. So we have spent a lot of the years together creating this life. And within that, we've kind of decided what works for us and what doesn't. And that has very much bled into how we raise our child, which I think is wonderful in the sense that we are really on the same page. But that came from years and years of figuring each other out. That's not something that happened overnight. Tom and I weren't always this communicative. We weren't always on the same page. We are both very headstrong people. If you knew either one of us, you would look at us and say, absolutely 100%, so headstrong. We are both very type A people, but with that, we're very fun and laid back. In regards to Mike and Ashley, it makes me laugh because both Ashley and Tom, no, she's not an Aquarius. Is she an Aquarius?
I don't even know.
I know you don't.
I have no idea if she is or isn't.
No, she's a Pisces, isn't she? Dang, now I feel like I need to look it up because Tom and Ashley are so incredibly similar.
That I can agree with. Yeah, I don't know the symbols, but yes, they are very similar.
Yes, it is like I married the male version of Ashley And then Mike married the female version of Tom. They are
Which is what I
so
was always
similar.
after.
Yeah.
I was always after Tom, and I just had to settle with the female version of him.
Yeah.
No, it's true. It's true. They are very, very similar. And it's funny, even what you just said, like you and Tom met very young and you guys kind of grew up together. And Ash and I met, I think it was 24, 20, 20, yeah, 24, 23, 24.
Still young.
Still very young. And I mean, if you knew me, if you only knew, to paint the picture, I was on a mattress on the floor. And I think my room had like maybe a used couch and a dog. That was my whole thing. A little TV,
Oh, yeah.
and it was on the floor. Like, it was all on the floor.
And it was a chewed mattress. Like that. It wasn't just a mattress on the floor. It was one time we left the dog in the room and he ate a corner of the mattress. So he had that going for him too.
I'm still mad at that dog. I'm still mad. He's downstairs and he's still would chew my bed up if I let him. So yeah, so painting the picture, we're talking about Allie and Tom, young, growing up, going through this road. And if you're young and you're in a relationship, we all remember what that's like. For the one-offs who were high school sweethearts and made it all the way through, screw you guys. I'm just kidding. But I'm just joking. But that's a very rare thing. So realistically, those relationships come with a ton up and down. Even friendships, like Allie and I, we'll be besties, and it's like, oh, we don't speak for a while. We got mad at each other or whatever. You didn't let me drive your PT Cruiser, so no. All right. Took the bedazzle off of the car you were decorating.
Why you gotta make me angry?
Man,
I'm having a great day.
I'm gonna definitely describe this PT Cruiser to you guys, and maybe even later on in this episode. I don't know. We'll get back to it. But going back to the spouses, I just think it's so cool that they met each other when they were very, very young and grew and built together. I met my wife when we were very, very young, and we grew and built together. And I really do believe that's a giant part of our strength. She met me at my second pro fight. And when I say pro fight, like, we're not talking glamour here. We're talking a dirt lot, some fold up chairs, an Indian reservation, and very, very loose rules. So yeah, that was my second pro fight. She showed up dressed dressed very nice heels, the whole nice outfit going on. She looked good. I'm just going to leave it at that. But
and chickens
showed up and she's walking through the dirt and chickens. Okay. So fair enough. There's chickens and there's some stray dogs running around. Okay. Again, not glamorous. And she shows up. She's like, what the heck am I? So, for her to stick around after that, and granted, I did win that fight. So fair enough. If I'd lost, she probably would have booked it. But yeah, so we're talking about the bottom of the bottom here. The bottom for me at pro fighting. For Tom, he was working at the entry level of his job. For Allie, she was kind of getting set up and trying to figure out what she was going to do. Ash, same thing. She just started back, or she hadn't even started back at 24-hour, but that was her next step. So we literally from the bottom as a couple, we just kind of came up. And I think that's partly why we all get along, partly why we all, are similar. And we're just like-minded in that sense that even if we're starting from the bottom, we're all going to work up. And we invested in each other very early. Mm-hmm. We invested in each other prior to any success. So it was all risk. And, I'm happy to say where we're all sitting now, we're all doing very, very well. And I'm super proud of all four of us. And this is not a braggadocious moment. I'm not trying to do that. I'm just, sometimes you just look around and you got to remember holy smokes, we came up from some weird times. We grew out of some real humble beginnings,
Well, we remember where we came from. When Mike and I were younger, we were not, I'm totally going to expose this right now. We were not the studious kind. I don't know if that's going to be surprising to anybody, but we were not the studious type of kids. Granted, we're both very intelligent people, surprisingly, for as much as we didn't want to be at school, which I think we did our best to try to not be at school as much as possible. I somehow graduated, which I don't know how I managed to do that, but through God's will, through the universe, I did graduate. Tom and I went to different high schools, as I mentioned previously. And I do want to preface so that people understand, yes, Tom and I have been together for a very long time, but that did come with a lot of work. Like Mike said, there were times where Tom and I actually were not together. When Tom was 18, he proposed to me. He went down to Mexico one day with a friend on a cruise, bought this pretty little ring who the guy swore was silver. I don't know if you've ever been to Mexico, but they're always selling jewelry on like in those, they're not stands, but they're like little shops. And I think it was Encinitas. And they're like, oh, real silver. Look at this. I want to do the silver test. Puts it in some kind of liquid. It like bubbles, shows you that it's real silver. Thomas like, yes. At this time, we're not making money at this point. I think at the most we're just he's trying to pay his car off and like car insurance and maybe a cell phone bill.
Right.
And I was in New York at the time going to school. Yes, I'm not studious, but I did somehow go to school.
Yeah, so, why you went there, I'm still, you know what I mean? You just left me. That's cool. Whatever, go to New York. I don't even care.
Did I offer for you to come?
That's true. It's cold.
It is cold. It's miserable. I would never want to go back there. If you live in New York, nothing against it. I'm a California girl. Cold weather is not for me. So I was in New York at the time. Tom and I had actually broken up just because we were trying to, had we broken up? No, we hadn't broken up yet. Had we broken up? No.
It's all blurred to me now.
It's a blur. I don't think we had broken up. I get this envelope in the mail and it is Tom proposing to me. There's this little box and inside it is this little ring with a purple little stone and he proposed. And I said yes. And I don't think we told anybody but friends. We just wrote, secretly we're planning to get married. And then I had this moment where I had to put the brakes on because I just didn't think it was going to be a good idea. I felt like it was going to be, and please know, this is not knocking anybody who had got married at a young age, anybody who had made this decision. God bless you, because that is so difficult to get married young and then work through. Your 20s are such defining moments in the sense that you're constantly changing. Like who I am when I was 21 is not the same person I was as I was 25, 28 and onward. Very different people. You still have your commonalities, but just different experiences shaping your future. And at that time, for me, I just knew it wasn't going to be a stable environment for Tom to have kids, because knowing my husband and knowing who he is, he's always wanted kids. He's always wanted to get married. He will tell you that, and I'm not just saying this for the fun of it, he will tell you that when he met me, he knew I was the one he was going to marry. I had no idea. That never crossed my mind, but he knew. So for him, it was serious. For me, I knew that we would get married, we'd be in love, but then we'd have bills to pay and kids would come. And we couldn't support the children, and Tom would grind and I would never see my husband as much. He works a lot now. Imagine what that would be then. That would require 1, 2, maybe 3 jobs. We lived in California. It's a very expensive place to live. At 18, you can't buy a house unless, you have some kind of financial backing or were really fortunate and made a ton of money in Bitcoin. I mean, it just wasn't a thing.
Yeah.
So I ended our relationship and it was awful. Tom and I were very distraught. It created a lot of rifts between us. It hurt people. It hurt us. It hurt families because we had been together for a while and we're very connected to each other's family. I know his brother never wanted to look at me again. Tom and I, from that point, went different ways and I didn't really get into trouble. I got into a different relationship later on that was just absolutely horrific. I was very lonely living in New York. I really missed my friends, missed my family. I lost a lot of who I was. Tom went through a binge of partying for sure. Got very wild, as Mike knows, because he saw it way more than I did.
We had fun. I'm joking. That was bad. No,
you had fun. You did have fun. It wasn't great.
Little bit of fun sprinkled in there was fun.
Right. So as the years went on, every single time, and as I say years, there was only 2 years in between this. But every time I'd come home, I would always see Tom, always. And if I was dating somebody, I would always match them to Tom. Oh, you're great. You don't do this. Tom did this. Tom does this. Tom makes me feel this way. And as the years went on, I was then currently living in Austin. So I went to school in Syracuse, transferred to Austin, always thought about Tom. And I had my best girlfriend. Hannah's going to kill me for saying that because Hannah is always my best girlfriend too. But I have two. I have lots of girlfriends. I'm very blessed. But my best friend in Austin was saying, who's this Tom guy? Like, why do you keep talking about him? And I kept saying, like, he's the love of my life. And she's like, well, he's in California. How are you going to make that work? And I told her I'm moving back to California. No, you can't move back to California for a guy. So I said, well, my parents aren't doing well either. So that's a good reason for me to be there, to go back to California. When secretly I went back to California to be with Tom. I had to know, was there a future for us? I had to know what would happen. I just didn't feel like I could go on the rest of my life without knowing what could happen to Tom and I.
Yeah.
I like, there wasn't going to be a future that I could go through without knowing if he was going to be in it or not. So I moved back to California. Tom and I were talking again. It was very brutal. We were very hurt for past things that happened between us, between friends, between people. Lots of negativity said to each other. I mean, we were very harsh. I think we yelled and screamed things that people should never yell and scream to each other. We said really horrible things. I know Tom would look me dead in the eye and say, I'm never getting back together with you. Yeah. I will never marry you. And, for me, I'm like, oh, don't say that. You love me. Say you do. Through it all, I knew he did, which is probably why I pushed so hard. And I don't want it to sound like I was some crazy girlfriend that's like, no, date me. You love me. It was never that, because in the middle of the bad moments that we were trying to work through, we had really beautiful ones too. And so we knew there was that kind of connection. So super long story short, we ended up working through it. And here we are today in our 30s with a baby. Mm-hmm. So that when Mike says we all grew up together, we very much did. And our bottom to the top.
It's funny, I joked around. I was like, oh yeah, we had some fun. But I mean, a lot of that time was spent with Tom talking about you, and how his feelings about the whole thing, and then how sad he was about it and everything else. So it was always leading back to you guys back together. It was always headed that way. And in my eyes, I didn't know. No one knew. You can know. You were all over the place. You were in New York. You're in Austin. Mm-hmm. We had no idea. And when you did get back to California, that's when, at that point, Allie and I and Hannah ended up getting a place together. And so I kind of got to see, as a roommate, the rekindling of the romance, and then all the way to now, all the way to the family and all the way through it. So it's really cool to watch that. It's really cool to be part of that. And then having my wife come out to Austin, move in with them prior to me being out there, not having any of this background, not have any of this connection, not knowing any of this history, and then becoming close with you guys through that experience was so special. Because I mean, you got to feel like an odd man out at some point when you're sitting in a room full, like there's 4 of you, and you're the only one who doesn't know the story. You're the only one who wasn't there. You're the only one who wasn't part of it. So I felt for my wife in that sense, because she's got to listen to a lot of old stuff. And, it's just, it's a hard thing to replicate. You can't. History is history. You have that time, you're either part of it or you weren't. You can learn about it. Like we learned about the history. I can't remember any of my history lessons, but you learn about it. I wasn't there. I wasn't in World War II.
But it happened.
Whatever. I couldn't tell you the date, but it did happen. I think someone told me it did anyway. So yeah, it's a special thing, this whole crew. And now, again, even though she wasn't there, she's very much part of it now. And having a couple of years in Texas that we all lived in the same neighborhood, in the same vicinity, and spending time with each other day in and day out, living together for a short period of time there before we even found our place. That was massive for our relationship as a 2 couples. It was massive for us.
100%.
So thankful for that. And it's so nice that we all get along as well as we do, especially because of where we all came from. I think that's so beautiful.
Yes. I also think people need to know how special Ashley is.
Yeah.
I mean, she is an amazing woman. She's a force to be reckoned with. One, she also has the biggest heart out of anyone you'll ever know. If you are in her tribe, you are in her tribe for life. This woman will have your back any given second. Doesn't matter what you did, doesn't matter if you're in the right or wrong. If she loves you, that's it. And again, we've known each other forever, especially Mike and I. I know Mike. Mike's always been amazing. You know, he's funny, he's lovable, he's very charming, but he's also very determined. Please continue.
Please continue, please. Let me say more.
Yeah, but so he's very charming. People love him. You know, people are just pulled into you. You have such a magnetic force to yourself. But on top of that, you're incredibly headstrong. You know what you want. You're going to do it. You're not going to let anybody step in your way. You're not here for the money. You never were. That was not what it was about. So you had your dream. You're going to chase it. It didn't matter if it came with millions. It didn't matter if it came with hundreds. That's what you were going to do.
Right.
And women, and Mike was also like, it's very hard to keep his attention. There's been there's been lots of women who are attracted to Mike. You know, you very much had a picking, I should say. And for Mike, is like, yeah, I mean, like, you're cool. I'm not really into it. Yeah, you're nice. I'm not really into it. Yeah, there were a few, but not like Ashley. And I remember Hannah was our roommate. Again, she's my best friend. I've also known her since I was 11, but Hannah, we all lived together. Hannah and I were sitting in the family room, and Mike kept vacuuming, and we kept saying, who the heck is he? He never cleans. Why is he vacuuming so much?
I'm very clean. I'm always on it.
Yeah, right. Maybe now.
Okay, maybe not back then. I had the dog in the room. He was chewing my bed up. What was I supposed to do?
Yeah. So we're like, this girl must be something special for Mike to be cleaning and making sure everything on a regular basis. And she keeps coming back. She has to be something special. And sure enough, Ashley is the most special person. I don't think you could have married anyone better. I'm so thankful for her. I know her friendship to me means the world. The fact that all four of us can have such a relationship is everything, you know, because it's not easy to find your people.
No, it's not. And I would, man, I can go in depth about Ash. I can go into everything. But here's the thing. My wife is similar to Tom in the sense that she's a very quiet person. She's a very, you know, she doesn't open up to everyone. When we first started dating, she's an observer, but she's also just careful with who she tells things to. You know, opposite of me, I'm an open book. I would tell a stranger on the street my deepest, darkest secrets, and I wouldn't think twice about it. I'm like, all right, see you later, bud. Thanks for listening. You know, and they'd be like, why did you just tell me that? So dating her was interesting. In the beginning, I would literally have to ask her, are you having a good time? Are you enjoying this? Is this something that you like? And she's like, yeah, I'm fine. Thanks. Why? And I'm like, because you look like you're miserable. Or there's like just no expression. It was hard to read her, you know. And as we continued dating, she filled me in. You know, she would fill me in on things, and I was hearing things about her that I knew not many people knew. You know, it was one of those things where you're like, oh my God, you're letting me behind the wall. Okay, this is awesome. Like I've crossed a barrier. And you know, that as soon as she started doing that, I was like, oh my God, I'm hooked. Like I'm in. I don't know why. Even when I first met her, and everyone says this and it's kind of like all BS, but like even when I first met her, I don't know if I told the story yet, but we basically met at a bar. I was dragged out by my friend Jeff Poster. Shout out to Jeff Poster. Who's also a father now, and a good father, actually expecting their second soon. Congratulations to the Poster family. So he drags me out, and at this time he was obviously single. So he's like, hey man, I want you to come out with me, and I want you to be my wingman. Let's go out. Let's go have a night out. And I told him, like, I'm preparing for a fight. I don't want to go out. He's like, come on, man, like you got to go out. And I was like, fine. You know, somehow he talked me into it. I was like, fine. Probably wasn't that hard to talk me into it at the time, but I was like, cool, fine, I'll do it. And he specified, he's like, hey, wear a button up. You always look like a bum or something like that. I don't know what he said, but he said something to them. And if you know Jeff, he can be blunt with you. So he told me, he told me that. So I was like, whatever. So I put a button up on and we both go out in our button ups looking snazzy.
So fancy.
So fancy to button up. It's
Wow.
real step up in the wardrobe game. So we go out and there's no one in the bar. It's like Patsy's Irish Pub in Laguna Niguel, which actually does get very busy, but at this time it was super empty.
Just crickets.
Just crickets. I think it was like the middle of the week too. It was like a weird day. I don't know. It wasn't like a Friday or Saturday. It was like a weird day. And in the bar, there's this girl and she's making out with this dude. And I'm like, oh, that's obnoxious. Like they're like ridiculous. Like they're already drunk. You know the ones. They're already drunk. They're like falling over, kissing each other. And so this girl is walking around the bar, making a scene. And I'm like, okay, whatever. Like, don't think twice about it. And I'm having my drink. And she comes up to me and she's like, taps me on the shoulder. And I was like, hey, how's it going? Like, well, basically, what do you want? And she's like, my friend thinks you're cute. And I can't do the drunk girl voice, but the drunk girl voice.
That was actually pretty good.
Thank you. And she says this, and I'm like, well, who's your friend? And she's like, she's over there. And I was like, well, great. Bring her by. I'd love to meet her. She's like, no, you have to go to her. And I was like, that sounds weird. It sounds like she doesn't want to meet me. I have a feeling this is odd. And so I was like, I'm not going to do that. But thank you for letting me know. If she comes by, I'd love to say hi to her, Let's do that. And this girl's like, now you have to go. I'm like, whatever. So she walks away. She's bored and walks away. Or she saw something shiny and walked away. I don't know. And so eventually Ash gets up to use the restroom. The restroom's past me. So she walks by and I turn around. I was like, hey, how's it going? Completely ignores, looks right at me, heard everything I said, looked at me, walked away. Like,
not today, buddy. Not today.
What the heck is your problem, dude? So she walked by. I was like, whoa, that's super awkward. And she came back and I looked at her, I turned back around. I was like, oh no, I'm not going to say anything to her again. So the girl comes back. The drunk girl comes back. She goes, that's my friend. Did you say hi? And I was like, I said hi. Your friend wants nothing to do with me. Like I literally said hi. She iced me. She just didn't say a word. And she's like, oh, she's shy. And I was like, no. That's not shy. That's just, she just doesn't want anything to do with me. She knows what she doesn't want. And it's me. So this. And so I was like, you know what? Forget it. Maybe she is shy. I'll try one more time. Walks by. Hey. Completely ignores me. I'm like, okay, that's strike two. I am down to the count. I'm not doing well. This is not good. I'm going to just sip my beer and talk to Jeff, And so I think David, my friend David, showed up too. So it was like the three of us were all hanging out. So I'm like, guys, I don't know what to do. I got to leave this one. I'm losing. I don't know what's going on. So she goes back in. I ignore it. I'm like, nope, not falling. Not a third strike. No way. I can't. My ego can't take this. And so the night continues. The night continues on, and we're all hanging out. We're having our beers. We're hanging out, talking. And then all of a sudden, I feel this tap on my shoulder. And I turn around, and no one there. I turn the other way, and it's Ash walking by. And I was like, did she just ignore me? Now she just tapped me on the shoulder. So I'm like, okay, this is weird. So I wait. She comes back. I'm like, hey, did you? And she just kept walking by, completely ignoring me again. I was like, this is crazy. I'm like, what's happening in my mind? So it was really messing with me. So this continues, right? This continues on, and she's tapping my shoulder. She's messing with me until eventually, I swear, she might be embarrassed for me saying this, but she's been drinking some Patron. She's having a good time. Eventually, she's been messing with me for this long. She comes by, she grabs my butt. And I was like, that's it. I turned around, I grabbed her by the shoulders, swung her around, sat her in the bar stool. I was like, listen, we need to talk. I need to know what's going on. Who are you? Where are you from? What's happening? So Jeff, myself, I think David was there too. We just grilled her for like 10, 15 minutes. And she looked visibly a little bit nervous, but like also like this was a game, so it wasn't that scary. And there was a lot of people, a lot of witnesses. No one was getting hurt. So we grilled her for like 15 minutes. And I got to know her. We got to talking. And she lived in Havasu, not nearby. She was out here. So she came with her friend. Her friend met a guy online and decided to come out to California to meet him. Very safe. And so Ash was like, dude, you're not going by yourself. I'm going to go with you. So she got basically third wheeled this date, and then had a
That's a
few
good friend
drinks.
though. That's a good
She's a
friend.
great friend. That's to what you were saying. If she's with you, she's with you. She'll ride with you. So, you know, again, trying to make a long story short, but it's kind of hard. But we start talking. We go to the beach the next day. You know, I try to impress her. I'm like, hey, I got a fight coming up. I'm gonna go for a run at the beach. Like, we should hang out. She's like, okay, cool. Like, what beach? And I was like, oh, whatever. I bring my dog because he's cute. He chews beds, but he's super cute.
Super cute.
And super cute. Deckers, shout out to Deckers. And then I bring them out, and she's like, oh, cute dog. And so I was like, yeah, I know, thanks. And so I go for my run, and like I was just drinking the night before, so the run was like 10 minutes. It was terrible. It was a terrible run. I shouldn't have even done it. I come back, and I'm trying, and so we get to talking. I invited my fight. I invited her to come out. We end up, you know, she ends up coming out more often. I don't know if you guys can hear him, but that's Johnny in the background. He's not having it right now.
No.
But we do this long distance thing. We do this long distance thing. And even Jeff, my dear friend, would tell me, he's like, what are you doing? This chick lives in Havasu. Like, it's not going to work out. It's not going to happen. But I don't know. I don't know. I was convinced there was something there. And I know she was too. And God, even though I tried to find, even at one point I was like, hey, look, I think I'm going to date. I want to date other people. I don't want to be exclusive or whatever. You live in Havasu. And she's like, cool, don't talk to me then. I was like, whoa, damn. So for a little bit, we didn't talk. Somehow I was able to recover. I don't know how I did it, but I was able to recover and get her back. And it kind of just blossomed from there. It would be take turns driving me going out to Havasu, her coming out to California. She had family in Burbank, which was really nice because it gave her a little more to do than just come sit with me.
Yeah.
And that developed until I moved out of the apartment that we were all in. She moved out and we got a place together. And, you know, God, we just started grinding. We lived in a tiny little apartment in Costa Mesa, 500 square feet, which is very common out here in California.
Yeah.
Like, you're not going to have a lot of space. 500 square feet. We had 2 big old dogs. And we just kind of grinded our way to where we are now. And everything that she told me she wanted to do, she's done. And I could say everything I wanted to do, I've done. You know, obviously we want to improve. We always want more, not in a desperate type of way, but like, it's just like, we want to continue growth.
Yeah. You know what you want, and you're going to get it. Yeah.
And again, I would love to give you the background on her. I'd love to tell you all about her, but that's her story to tell. And, you know, and I respect that. And if she does want to share with you guys, I mean, she'll be on here eventually. And if she does feel like sharing with you guys, you'll get to know her a little bit. And I have so much respect for this woman. I have so much love for her. And it's not even just love. Like, love, I don't know. Love feels too easy. Like, yeah, it's so much more. It's so much more than that. So that's a little bit about her. Obviously, I'm sorry I'm not giving you a ton of details of her in particular, but you know, it's so funny to watch her as a mom now too, because she went from this girl who you couldn't get a read on. You know, she may or may not have had resting bitch face. I don't know if she had it or not. I'm not willing to say that. Some people might have said that. It's not intentional. It's not intentional. It's just like she didn't wear her expressions on her face. Like, I mean, it's funny now. She does, because like if she's not liking something, you can see that right away. But you know what I'm saying? Like, she's more stoic than that. She's kind of quiet. She's a little more reserved. She doesn't really share a lot. But her as a mom, she's like open everything, the floodgates, all emotions, everything's just like exploded out of her. And it's so cool to watch. It's so cool because for so long she wasn't like that. And now I'm seeing her in a whole new light, and I'm falling in love with this whole new version of her. And it's beautiful. So I'm very thankful and grateful for that. You know, so this has been essentially a podcast about our spouses and about our upcomings, but like, I think that needs to be shared. Like we were talking about, I think it needed to be shared.
Yeah, I definitely think that it helps. Hopefully it helps you guys understand our spouses a lot more. So when we tell stories, you can kind of get a vision of your head of why things happen that way, or, you know, just a better idea of it. Tom and Ashley, again, they're similar. They are both very quick-witted. They're very funny people, but you have to really know them to understand how funny they are. They are not the most talkative people. They are definitely the people who I don't want to say like judge everything that's happening in a room before accepting the situation, right? Like they'll sit there and kind of just like look around and like, do I really want to be here? Are these the people I want to be around? Are you guys worth my time? Like that's very much them. But when you do know that, because I have the same thing, Tom, people think Tom never speaks. My dad's like, does he ever talk? I mean, now he does. Like, oh yeah, he never stops talking. Like, if you know Tom, there will be a point where you're like, damn, dude, okay. Like, if you look at him and you don't think he's opinionated, no, he's the most opinionated person I know in a good way. But Ashley and Tom are very much like that. And again, when you're in their tribe, you are in their tribe. But they're not face value. They don't wear their heart on their sleeves. They don't just show you all of their cards. Where Mike, I mean, I'm pretty reserved. I'm a little bit of an introvert. Mike is much more extroverted than I am, but we're both very like, we'll talk, we'll shoot the shit, we can be pretty open, but that's not our spouses.
Yeah. It's funny you just said that you're an introvert, because I'm like, what in the heck is she talking about, man? I feel you. I do feel you. I do. I think there's a little bit of that in all of us. Like, I think, I don't know. I don't want to, I couldn't even, I can't even really say I'm an introvert. But I'm, I'm not, I'm just like, I wear different hats, you know what I mean? With there's
Yeah.
different people. Like I might tell everyone everything. Like I'll tell you everything. Don't ask me questions, because you're going to get the real version and the long version. But I think it's no mistake that Allie and I are doing this. It's no mistake that we're the ones you're going to see day in and day out, that we're the ones that are going to be talking for the big majority of this. That's not by accident. If Ash and Tom did one of these, it would be a very different tone. It'd be a very different, it might be a lot of,
You'd be like, hello, is anyone there? Hello.
I mean, potentially, who knows? Maybe they get in the groove and they start going, and you're like, oh my God.
And they totally could.
They totally could, because they have that in them.
Yes.
But as far as to the public, to sharing, to podcast, to put this out there, that's not their thing. That's not going to be, I don't see that for them, unless it's about hunting or something for Tom, or about parenting for Ash. I think that she really will open up for this one. I think that's something, these subjects that you can get them talking about. But it's no mistake that it's Allie and I. We could talk about parenting. We could talk about anything. We could talk about her hair. We could talk about,
your hair.
We were talking about my hair. God, guys, I'm wearing a hat. So Ash cuts my hair. She used to do hair professionally. It's not like we don't do the bowl and the cut around.
It's amazing.
She cuts my hair. She's great. She's incredible, but she's busy. So my hair looks like garbage right now, and I'm training for a fight, and I'm just like, kind of feel like gross. I just put a hat on, I'm insecure.
Your hair's long. You have great hair when your hair's long. Yeah, I want to see it.
Stop it.
I hate when you cut your hair. You know this. Oh, it's perfect.
It's not perfect.
It's perfect. You and Tom, I love when you guys have your hair that length. Don't cut it. I'm going to be so upset. Not that I have any say in it. Ashley, keep being busy.
This is like as long as I want it ever to get. Sorry, I don't know why we're talking about this. So if you're watching this on YouTube or whatever, and you're looking at my hair, you can see it. If you're not watching it, I don't know. It's not that long, but it's long enough for me.
Yeah, if you guys are curious, if you're curious what we look like, we're going to throw these podcasts up on YouTube. I don't think we're going to be editing them, so they're probably going to be long, probably going to be rough. But if you're curious, because I know when I listen to things, I'm always like, oh, I wonder what they look like. Does the face match the voice, or does the voice match the face? So I don't know. You tell us.
Have you ever done the Google search on like your favorite morning radio hosts?
Yeah. Oh my God.
Like, these are these people. Like, oh my God. I don't know. They just don't match always the voice. It's funny. Like I had a picture in my head and they were different. But anyway, the reason I'm talking about my hair, getting back to it, is that Allie and I could talk about anything. That was my point. It wasn't really to show you my hair. It wasn't really to go into all that. But we could talk literally about anything. And we've spent years doing it, full-on conversations in the mirror sometimes while she was like getting ready. And we would just sit there, talk to each other. So this is not much different. It's kind of like we're looking in a mirror. I see myself. I see her. It's just actually right up our alley. I mean,
you guys don't know this, but Mike cannot walk by a mirror without looking at himself. I've never seen him walk past a mirror that he did not look at.
Listen, Listen, it's just to check for boogers. I want to make sure there's no bats in the cave. That's
Please.
the real reason.
Anyways, tell him how good his hair looks so
Awesome.
that he doesn't cut it. I really hope you guys have enjoyed this. Hopefully that gives you a better story. Again, please follow us on our Instagram. Subscribe if you like our podcast. We'd love to have you. Leave a comment, send us something, ask us a question. We just want to hear from you guys. And again, Instagram, YouTube, check us out. Hope you enjoy this episode. We can't wait to talk to you guys next week.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. Useless Nipples signing out.
Bye.